Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. I am going to talk about the Iridium, and I'm going to talk about the filters, and I'm going to talk a bit about filter basics. So let's start with, I just did an init patch, so it sounds like this. And the first thing I'm going to do is change waveform 1 to be a sawtooth, because sawtooths work great with filters. And I'm going to thicken it up with 4 kernels. So I'm going to do that. Whoops, 4. So, just a really basic saw. So now let's go to filters and let's hear what it sounds like. Okay. Now, one thing about the filters, there's a couple of cool things I've discovered that I wanted to share. First thing is the filters are very capable in this system. There's really arguably 3 filters that you can use, but when you go to this link mode right here, which you can also hit here on the screen, the one that I would start with actually is single. And the reason why is kind of learning what one filter can do in the Iridium and what you can do with it will help understanding, what you can do with, 2 filters or, like I said, arguably 3 filters, because you also have the digiformer, which can pick filter types as well. But let's sit down and start with one of them and look at some cool things that are inside of it. So if you're not animating the filter, this will just control. It's almost like using it like an EQ in some ways. But one of the things that's cool about filters, if you're new to them, is using an envelope. And there's this envelope button at the top that's really nice inside the Iridium. So here's the filter envelope right here. I'm going to try to show the knobs and how you can get to things. So for example, let's change sustain, all the way down, and let's change decay, get something like that, sort of a plucky sort of looking envelope. And you can see by just changing this, it changed the screen. But what's nice is this filter button, this envelope button, if I touch that, you'll see a little image of the envelope up above. Now watch what happens when I turn these. You'll see that it stays on the filter screen so that I can see it there, and I just have that little preview. So these knobs give me live control but keep it kind of locked, on the filter. Now, let me turn this down so we can hear it a little bit. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't add any filter amount. That's kind of the whole thing. And that'll show me, lead me to the next little feature that I found, which is cool. Because when you first start working with filters, there's this tools button over here. And if I hit tools, I can say animate mods. That means animate modulations on this filter display. Now what you're seeing is, if you look at the top, you're seeing the envelope and seeing how the filter is being animated, which is really nice. It just helps you visualize it. That's especially important, like if you do like negative filters, right? So this is very helpful. If you ever get into applying filters, let me do something faster. So it's, other way. Do this. There's certain effects you can get with negative filters, but that's setting the amount to negative. But that animation really helps you understand how the filter is being applied. So let's keep that to start this next little section. Well, before I jump to that section, I do want to show you the next thing that's in the tools, which is that you can also overlay an analyzer. So what this is doing is showing you the frequencies as the filter is cutting them, so you can really get an idea of what your signal is. So you can see, like with this voice, because it's a saw wave, we have all sorts of frequencies to work with. Now, just by contrast, let me go into the waveform and change this to something simpler. So let's actually go in and change this to a sine wave. Okay, now let's go to the filter and look at this. So now, when I play a note, and this is why people use, a sawtooth wave when you're working with filters, because you'll see that there's nothing really affecting that fundamental tone until you get right on top of it, right? So if I play something high, but this helps you understand like where your frequencies are. So let me set this guy back to sawtooth and go back to filters. Okay, so we can see it there. All right, so now for the next thing, let's talk about the types of filters. And this is there's a knob here. So you have frequency, right, which we did. Resonance, which I will cover briefly, which is the add. And again, you can see how it's affecting those frequencies. If I bring it all the way down, if I bring it up, you can see it boosting those ones in the middle, which is what resonance does. Right at the cutoff point, it increases, it boosts the amplitude or the volume of those frequencies. So it gives you that resonance sweep is what that's called. So let me bring that down. And then this knob, the type, that's what I wanted to get to. So the type, if you go through here, there's 12 dB and 24 dB low pass filters, and then there's basically 6 of those. So they're regular, saturated, and dirty. So those are the 3 kind of types. And then here you have the 24 dB version of that. So you have the regular low pass, saturated, and dirty. Then it switches to high pass. So you have the same collection of, you have 12 dB and 24 dB in those same 3 kind of, more intense filters is the way to think of those. And we'll listen to them here in a second. Bandpass has the same breakdown. So you have 12 dB and 24 dB bandpass filters. And we'll listen to those in just a second. So let me start with this is the regular one, which we already hear, but let's go to the saturated. Saturated, sometimes it's not as exaggerated. It just adds a little bit more of a cutting sound. Let me see if we can hear it. So let me try a high note here. Let me pick it next here. Kind of hard to hear, but this one, you can definitely hear the difference between that, and this is my favorite filter, actually, the ones that I've been working with, is the 12 dB dirty filter. It adds a really nice. So let's go ahead and throw in an ARP on here just to see if I can do something that sounds halfway decent. Let's record. All right, so let's try. All right, let's see how this sounds. Let me go to scale, bring that down a couple octaves, do latch and play, and let's try this one. That'll work. Let's try that. All right. Hopefully you can hear me over this, but now we can kind of start playing with the envelope. Get something like a little kind of crisp. Let's add some release. Now let's change some different types here. So let's go ahead so that's the 24 dB. You can hear that cuts off the frequencies more aggressively. Let's go to the saturated and dirty. I love that the dirty just adds a little distortion in there, a nice little filter drive option. I really like that. Okay, so let's keep going. High pass, so high pass is very different. Let me stop the sequencer for a second. So a high pass obviously goes the other way. So it's, you can go ahead and you can see the. Now, even though I'm not going to talk about using multiple filters, this is exactly one of the things you can do that's cool with 2 filters is you can use one for low pass, one for high pass, and add different animation paths and things like that. But like I said, stick with one at first. Let me go back to, let me show the, jumping around a little bit here, but you showed high pass. Let me show the band pass. So the band pass looks like this. You can add resonance to that. Let's hear what this sounds like. And I'm going to turn off the animation just for a second. I actually like this default. I have to say, when you're working with this, it's kind of nice to not have all that stuff going on. It's a little bit much. Okay, so there's a high pass, or I'm sorry, band pass, and let me go to the dirty version, which has a little bit of grit. Can be cool. And then there's the 24 dB version of that. So you see how it's narrower because it's a tighter angle. Okay. So let's go back to the one I really like, which is this one. let's tweak the... There we go. All right, so something in there. And now what I'm going to do is we're going to use the LFOs, because LFOs are awesome. And pause this for a second. So I'm going to use the LFOs to animate different parameters of the filter. Again, this is kind of just understanding like what you can just do with one filter in the Iridium. So let me go back to LFOs just for a second. And one of the things that I want to mention is that there's 6 LFOs, which is awesome, right? But the first thing is that all of the LFOs can be polyphonic, meaning every note that you play, you can play up to 16 notes, each has its own copy of the LFO. Now I'm going to turn that off. I'm actually going to turn off poly and go to global for these first 4 LFOs. And that'll make sense here in just a second. Now what I'm going to do is go into the filters, and we're just going to play this sequence and then add on top of it some LFOs changing at different rates. Just add some more interest to the sequence of the sound of things. So let me go ahead and start this again. And let's start with the cutoff frequency. So let's go ahead and touch that and do modulation. Now over here, I can select which LFO I want with this knob, and this is the amount knob. So just by turning this, it's adding it in. Now let's set the rate to something slow. This is every 8 seconds. And maybe that's too much. That's changing the filter cutoff. Let's just back that off just a little bit. There we go, something like that. Maybe even a little more right there. Okay, so now let's do the same thing with resonance. Let's go ahead and add resonance, modulation. I'm gonna go to LFO, the next LFO. Let me turn the time down so it's not crazy. Ooh, that's a lot. Hold on. There we go, something like that. Okay. Now let's go to, turn this off for a second. Filter pan is really cool, so let me show that. So let's modulate that. Let's go to the third LFO. Ooh, that's very fast, hold on. Let's do I'm just picking kind of like, I want all the times to be slightly different is what I'm doing. Let's go ahead and give this quite a bit so you can really hear it. I'm exaggerating this because it's just for a YouTube video. Okay. And one of the features that's really awesome is this filter level. So the filter level is independent of the envelope. I have not seen this before, actually. Maybe it is common on synthesizers I haven't used, but so this is independent. So as I move this, you can see I can actually change how much filter is being applied. So it's just a way of attenuating the filter. But what's cool is it's independent of the, so you can change, well, anyway, let me just hear, I'll play it so you can hear what it sounds like. So it just takes off volume. So let me bring it back all the way. But you can obviously hear let me turn on the animation so you can see it. You can see all these things changing, right? So you can see the resonance. And what's cool is watch. By using filter level, you can see the envelope is still actually, changing it. So it's really nice. It's just changing how, so that would be another one we can add. So let's go ahead and put that one on here too. So while that's moving around, what I'm going to do is change I'm going to take filter level and I'm going to modulate that, and I'm going to add that to LFO4 here. So let's just do that. And then let's set this down to something fairly slow. Like we'll do 11 seconds. All right, so we'll do this again. Actually, it's interesting that I don't see the filter level animating, but that's fine. I mean, actually, for me, being able to see this much is quite a bit. So I'll keep this in. Maybe maybe I added, let me see. Let me change this to be a negative. Curious. All right, now let me see if it's animating. No, I don't think it is. Huh, interesting. Anyway, let's leave that there. All right, so let's go ahead and keep going here. Okay, so now the kind of the last part of this is that's just what one filter can kind of do with you animating a bunch of things, but that's only one model. So you can see up here you have filter model. So that was the SVF model, but you can go in and actually switch this to Largo, Nave, PPG, and Quantum, which is the digital emulation of the Quantum analog filter, which is in the Quantum, the Waldorf Quantum. So let me go back to, let's just play this again, and then I'm just going to cycle through those so you can kind of hear the character of them. I saw a lot of resonance, so I hope this doesn't get too loud. We'll see. Okay, SVF. Largo. Largo has more bite, I've noticed. Nave. Lots of resonance. PPG. And Quantum. Now I have noticed difference in using these guys. Let me take let me bring that down because a little too much resonance. Yeah, there we go. I just want a little bit of peak. I do find I use the SVF the most, which is the default filter. All right, let's add some effects to this, and then I think we'll call that a video right there. I think I went through everything I wanted to show. Let me go back through my mental list here. Just to recap, so one of the things I wanted to make sure I show is this envelope toggle. So when you're editing a filter, by turning that on, it makes it so you can edit the envelope and see those edits and use the knobs without having it screen jump, which is really nice option. And the other two that I've been using are the ability to show the analyzer and be able to actually animate the curve of the filter so you can actually see it being modulated, which is very nice. And the other thing, I think that was, and then I went, and then starting with a single mode, I think is important just to see what you can do with one filter because there's so many modulation options. That was just the LFOs. I mean, this thing goes crazy with all sorts of different ways to do it, but I just wanted to show like taking one filter and changing it in a couple of ways so that you can get more out of it. Let's add some effects and we'll call this, I won't put drums on this, I kind of want to, but I like the chorus. And then let's put a little delay. I'm going to dial the delay back because sometimes it's, there we go. Now let's play with the filter. I had to put some resonance in there. Resonance is one of those things I like a little of it, but too much of it, it gets weird. Let's change the 24. Okay, so right in there, So filters, so right in there I was starting to get something where when I went to a 24 dB and brought this in here, I was starting to get some really cool trails from the delay and from the chorus. And that's what's really interesting about filters is that some of the effects are subtle, but that's why they're really cool to explore, is by sitting here and kind of tweaking and finding the right curve and animating them in different ways to kind of slice the sound. You can just find like all sorts of things that just sound really great to your ears. Now I know this wasn't the like greatest sequence or anything, but you know, if you put drums and everything with that, which I might do and turn this into a little bit more than this, and then, you know, kind of showcase that. But that's all I have for now. So I hope that was helpful. I hope if you have an Iridium or you're trying to evaluate one and looking at filters, I'll do a follow-up video where I go into, you know, using multiple filters, and because there's a lot more this thing can do. So thanks a lot. Appreciate the time, and take it easy. Bye.